Good afternoon, East Texas. Welcome on into East Texas Now. I'm your host, Michaela Goose. Joining me right now, Cameron Williams, new guest here on East Texas Now, City of Tyler's traffic engineer. How is that traffic today getting in?
It was easy for me. I'm coming from downtown.
So thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and just, if you would start off introducing yourself to our audience, tell us a little bit about what you do for the City of Tyler.
Sure. So my name's Cameron Williams. I am the traffic engineer for the City of Tyler. So it's a little bit of everything from, dealing with signal timing, signs, markings, to citizens calling in wanting signs, to reviewing plans and capital improvement projects. So a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. And one of those improvement projects has been getting Tyler off of, or getting South Broadway, I should say, off of Texas's top 100 congested roadways, which you did accomplish this year. Congratulations.
Well, thanks. So it goes to a lot of hard work from a lot of different people at City of Tyler. But yeah, that Texas 100 is something that goes back to 2009. Texas legislature said, TxDOT, you got to track these, and we want to know what are the 100 most congested roadways. And South Broadway's been on there for a little bit of a while. And so this year, the latest results came out, and we are at 102, which puts us off that top 100, which is pretty awesome, pretty big deal. But again, it goes back to some investments that the city management leadership have been making in our traffic signal system, and also hard work of our signal technicians, everybody out there maintaining that and keeping things operating much better.
Now, we moved from 87 on the list to 102, and now you have to give it to people. Moving 2 spots off of the top 100 list is a little... Okay, guys.
Absolutely.
Now, go into it a little bit more for me. What exactly has been done with traffic? Has it been messing with those signal timings, kind of making more roadways, expanding roads? What's been going on there?
Absolutely. So really kind of the big focus has been on the equipment that we have out there in the field.
Okay.
From putting in new controllers, communications so we can remotely manage and operate and keep tabs on things better, and detection. So how do we see vehicles in the field? And keeping that stuff up to date and working helps move traffic along better, and then also retiming those signals.
Okay.
And so the progression of people through that corridor has really been the focus of how do we better operate, better efficiency. Now we know there's still congestion. If you're out there today on a Friday before the holidays, they're saying, what? At 102, we're like number 1, right? But no, we've seen improvements, especially during those off-peak times and a more efficient, where you're not sitting there waiting and like, there's nobody here, why am I waiting on the roadway? So those are type of improvements that we've been making, and you're seeing some results of that.
Yeah. And, I do have to ask, because this is the news. So, of course, when we got your email announcing, we've moved off the top 100 list, and I set this interview up with you guys. Thank you again so much for coming on. I went ahead and shot an email blast out to the newsroom, and I said, if anybody remembers, which, of course, we have a lot on our mind, but if you happen to remember, go ahead and use a stopwatch as you are going on South Broadway, approaching a light on South Broadway. I want to read you some of the times that we have here. So one of our producers, Mr. Kevin Enright, and I have this pulled up on Google Maps for you. Here, I'll edit this a little bit. Okay, so he was traveling on Loop 323, approaching that South Broadway intersection, and he was waiting at this light for 12 minutes and 55 seconds, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
12 minutes and 55 seconds. That's a long time. What can be done to try and help that issue?
He's going to need to go at a different time of day. It's just the wrong time. No, so again, you talk about during those peak times.
Okay.
Is, say, afternoon, 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Or on a Saturday. Those are when we have the busiest traffic. And at the end of the day, we can only get so much through that roadway. And how do we actually make that more consistent? And so, yes, there is congestion.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Texas 100 looks at is also different measurements of consistency.
Yeah.
How much time do you need to plan extra for a trip? And so those are things that we've seen consistent and be level over the past couple of years, as opposed to getting worse. And so, again, we know that it's slow and we know it's frustrating, but those consistency and reliability is also a big piece of that. Because at the end of the day, we can't make people, we want to see Tyler grow, right? There's going to be more traffic.
And the consistency definitely is there with that traffic. I'll give you that, Mr. Williams. Now, jumping right in, I was doing a little bit of digging on the Texas, I believe it's via A&M, isn't it? Yes, Texas A&M top congested segments. Once again, we were in 2022 when they released that list, which came out in 2023, of course. Everything's a year behind. We were number 87. Now we are 102, as I said, and here's some of the statistics that they gave out. For delay per mile in hours, that's 147,163, which a lot of numbers for my journalism brain, I gotta be honest. And then gallons of gas wasted on South Broadway, 213,274 gallons of gas wasted. And then wasted money due to congestion costs. This is a big one. $15,873,612 in congestion costs on South Broadway alone. That's a lot of big numbers. What are we looking at when it comes to, is that actually that big of a number? You know, I'm not a, as I like to call you, a trafficologist. I call that our very own Carrie Compton, trafficologist, traffic engineer. This is not my expertise. So is that around average? Is that as mind-blowing as it seems when you're throwing out $15 million, 200,000 gallons of gas wasted, 150 nearly thousand hours wasted on the road?
Sure.
Is that average, or is that, wow?
So, you know, again, we're 87, 102. Those are big numbers, especially for somebody living in Tyler, right? You know, we're definitely, but we're not sitting on US 75 in Dallas, Fort Worth and sitting there, you know, playing a game on our phone while we're waiting in traffic. So it has a real impact. And, you know, what's really tough about that is it's very hard for that individual that, you know, things add up over a year, right? 30 seconds faster on you doesn't really feel like it, but those add up. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. When you look at those big numbers, how do we at least quantify it? But at the end of the day, how do we get that person down the corridor a minute faster, 2 minutes faster, 30 seconds faster, or they're not sitting there for 12 minutes and being late to a meeting? So those are the things that really impact, and if we can improve those, then that's when we're making some good progress.
And what are things that can improve those from a traffic engineer standpoint?
Absolutely. So again, just that keeping our equipment working well, having our technicians who have improved greatly, them maintaining that, proactively keeping track and seeing when issues, not having to wait for citizens to call to tell us something is broken. Those are the type of things we can do. We have our South Tyler mobility study that we've been working on. Is at the end of the day, you can only get so many people through that corridor, right? So how do we give people other alternatives, or maybe think of it of reducing friction is at driveway locations or intersections, getting little efficiencies there. So those are things we're looking at. And then working with TxDOT. So TxDOT has some projects that they have in the pipeline, from adding some lanes on South Broadway, just south of Cumberland, to also improving parallel routes like Biloxi Drive, 756, and also Old Jacksonville Highway. So adding capacity on parallel roadways to take some of that pressure off of Broadway, or every little bit helps.
And when we're saying equipment, are we talking about stoplights, stop signs? What equipment are we referring to?
Sure. So we actually think of it as computers at those intersections. And so those are things that we have replaced and updated. There are cameras that we use to detect vehicles there, so that we know that people on the side streets are in those left turn bays. So having newer technology that doesn't have black and white, you know, so those are things that we have invested in. To, again, communications, being able to remotely from our offices, being able to check on these things, make modifications quicker, and then ultimately we're getting more data. And so from that data, we can then make decisions that are more educated to help improve that traffic flow.
So moving from 87 to 102, that is a pretty big jump for South Broadway. So thank you, as a person who drives South Broadway every single day to get to work. I do appreciate it. But are we looking at this as, nicely done, fellas? Shake your hand, everyone, get home for dinner. We got a roast in the oven. We are so excited. Or are we pushing through into the next year? Are we going to try and get that down to maybe a 105, maybe 110, maybe in the 200s in 20 years or so, when we have flying cars and all of that, and the roadway isn't as clogged? What are we looking at? How are we looking at this?
Absolutely. It's definitely not, hey, we've accomplished it, let's, go have dinner type deal. It's been something that we're working towards. We can kind of take a little bit of a moment to acknowledge the hard work that all our staff and the city has put into improving things. When you actually go back and look at the numbers, we have less delay than we did in 2019. So that's a positive, right? But again, people are driving that today and saying, really, 102, 87, what does that matter? And so we want to keep pushing forward. We want to continue tweaking those signal timings more frequently and be able to know when we need to. And then those bigger projects like what TxDOT's working on with our South Tyler Mobility, those are going to take more time because they're bigger infrastructure projects to help relieve some of that pain point down there. So it's definitely not done. We want to keep working on it and keep improving it, but it is nice to at least see some progress and know that we're heading in the right direction.
And is there anything that, as a community, residents in Tyler can do? Should we be calling and saying, hey, it's really backed up over here, or I always have trouble getting out of my driveway on this street? Is that something that you guys are looking for?
Absolutely. So again, we can't be everywhere. We don't know we don't drive all these corridors all the time. Y'all do on a daily basis. You see when things aren't operating regularly, right? So hey, usually I get through this intersection in this amount of time and it's not cycling. So those are times that give us a call. We have, there's also the My City app that Tyler has that you can report issues. And so those are things that are helpful that we can go and investigate.
That turn lane on Loop 323 onto South Broadway, I gotta tell ya, makes me cry a little bit every time I gotta drive it.
Sure.
Is there anything else that you would like to let our viewers know before we let you get back?
No, again, I think the message is we understand that there's still congestion out there. We understand there's delay, there's frustration, especially this time of year, right? It's even more crowded than usual. And so we're not, hey, we're done, we've accomplished it. We want to acknowledge that, hey, we've made progress, but we have a long ways to go. And just a big shout out, especially to our guys that are out there in the field, because the job that they do as far as maintaining things and keeping things working, make an impact to people getting to school, getting to work, getting to their appointments, getting shopping every day. And so at the end of the day, take your time, get home safely, and we'll keep working.
Alrighty, once again, Cameron Williams, thank you so much for coming on for I hope, fun conversation here on East Texas. Now, we hope to see you soon, hopefully when we hit 200.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this.